The Raiders fooled me after starting 3-0, beating the Ravens, beating the Steelers. They lose to the Chargers. They lose to the Bears. They are now 3-2. They lose 20-9 in a very ugly game. They were playing at the same time as the Chargers and Browns. And the Chargers and Browns were putting up fireworks. It was entertaining. It was an amazing matchup, back and forth. Everybody was talking about it. Twitter was blowing up. It was, one of the most entertaining games of the season. And at the same time, the Raiders and the Bears were playing a snooze fest, a boring game with penalties, with a lot of, punting, bad drives, bad offense, bad O-line play. It was just a very, very uninterested, boring, lackadaisical, any word that you want to think of. It was just a lethargic display of NFL football. More boring than even the Jets versus the Falcons. I know some people had some jokes that, you're English, you're trying to see some good football, and they send the Jets and the Falcons. That game was way more interesting than the Raiders versus Bears. It was a snooze fest. The Bears won with 109 yards passing and 143 rushing yards. And that's all they needed. They ran the ball on the Raiders. They played good defense. And the Raiders just never woke up. It was more of the same as the first half versus the Chargers last week. I think teams figured them out. You got to stop Waller, and the other playmakers are not going to get the job done. Henry Ruggs, it kind of looked like he was trying to, become a number one wide receiver this year, but he's not there yet. He can't carry an offense. He can't, separate himself. He can't, be a consistent target for Derek Carr. Bryan Edwards, drops. Hunter Renfrow, he's a good number 3, number 4 wide receiver. He can't really change a game. He's a nice piece. Don't get me wrong. He's a good quality wide receiver. But when the Bears, are playing good defense and you need a wide receiver to take over, they don't have that guy. They don't have that guy on the team. They need a number 1 wide receiver to open up the playbook to, free up Darren Waller, because teams have figured out the Raiders. You stop Darren Waller, you pretty much stop the Raiders offense. The running game was non-existent, and Derek Carr could not elevate the team. He had a couple throws that he missed. The interception, he kind of put too much air on it. I think if he hits it on a line drive, I think he connects with them. And I think Derek Carr kind of struggles throwing on the run, which is crazy because he used to be pretty good at that, in my opinion. Interception came on the run, down 8 in the second half, 17-9. Raiders have the ball, 4th down. Derek Carr steps up into pocket. It's not the easiest of throw, but it's a throw that he should make. Wide receivers breaking down the middle. There's a decent enough window for him to, just put the ball there, give him a chance at least. And he overshoots him, doesn't give his wide receiver a chance. Turnover and downs. Bears kick another field goal. It's game over, and Raiders lose. And it's just disappointing because, they look good against the Ravens. They look good against the Steelers. They look good against the Chargers in the second half. But this was more or less the same as the first half versus the Chargers. They could just not get nothing going. And, Chucky had that, that drama going on this weekend. And he kind of addressed it. But I think it might have had an impact with the team. It's hard to say that you can't. John Gruden did apologize. He did, own up to it. He said, he shouldn't have done that, but there's not a racist bone in his body. He wants to lead everyone together as a team. So, he's saying all the right things. We'll see how the league deals with that, but you got to imagine that had an impact on the team. But other than that, I can't put all of, their lackluster play on that event, just because, like I said, they came out flat against the Chargers last week. They came out flat against this week. We'll see how they do next week for the Bears. I still don't believe in the Bears. They're 3-2 now, but I don't believe in Nagy. I think he's not the guy for the Bears, in my opinion. We'll see how Justin Fields progresses. This was not like a pretty game by any means, but he gets the victory, 3-2. He got hurt a little bit. He came back. He showed toughness. Good for Justin Fields. But the Raiders, I'm not done with the Raiders. They play the Broncos next week, and I think if they lose to the Broncos, you could stick a fork in the Raiders. It'll just be one of those Another season where the Raiders kind of fool people at the beginning of the season. They start off hot. They get some impressive victories. You're starting to get comfortable. You're starting to believe in them. You're starting to, really say, like, start to believe in John Gruden too. You're like, oh, is this the year? Is this, are you guys feeling this? Are you guys seeing, like, the pieces are falling together? He's finally, building his team. He's finally completing his roster. His vision is coming together. You start to get a little excited, and you think this project that John Gruden has started is heading in the right direction. Raider fans get louder. You start hearing Raider fans, getting hyped, talking about how they're back. And, they even caught me in that whole, in that whole energy and that whole, aura. I got caught up in it too. But now losing to the Bears, which I really don't rate the Bears. They have a good defense. Their offense is terrible. Watching the Bears on offense is more excruciating than watching paint dry. And for the Raiders to lose to the Bears at home in Vegas, ugly loss by the Raiders. And the Broncos, they lost this week, but they played the Steelers tough. So they're going to be a tough matchup for the Raiders. And if they play like they did this week against the Bears, I would not be surprised if the Raiders lose to the Broncos. And if you lose to the Broncos, you're 0-2 in the division, and you still haven't played the Chiefs, and you got to play the Chargers again. And it's just like you're way too behind on that 8 ball at that point, and you could pretty much stick a fork on the Raiders if they lose to the Broncos, in my opinion. Because all the talk after the 3-0 victory was, we're going to the playoffs. Like, this is it. This is the year. We're going to the playoffs. If they lose to the Broncos, at best, they'll get the seventh spot. But I think it'll just be demoralizing, like winning 3 to start the season and losing 3 straight. So for the Raiders' sake, they got to come out strong against the Broncos. They got to win. I think the same could be said about the Broncos. They started 3-0. They've lost their last 2. I think it's the same. It's more along the same lines. Like if the Broncos losing 3 straight after winning 3, it'll be killer for the team. But overall, the Raiders I feel like I got bamboozled. I feel like they fooled me. I believed them after 3 weeks. I was, I even gave them a little shout out. I was saying that going into the Chiefs game at week 9, the way their schedule was setting up, they should be like 7-2, 6-2, or whatever week they play. If they play week 8, 6-2, 7-2, something like that. I was believing in the Raiders. I looked at their schedule, and they should beat these teams. And the Bears, one of the teams that they should beat. The Chargers was the team that I was like, okay, if you lose, it's the Chargers. They look like the Chargers have been looking good. It's not the end of the world. But the Bears, good teams beat the teams they're supposed to beat. And the Raiders lost to the Bears. So I am almost out on the Raiders. If they lose to the Broncos next week, I will be completely out on them.